See what happens. Hey y'all, I'm streaming. We're doing another test. Trying to go vertical. There we go. I'm updated. Now I wonder, looks like a big horizontal screen to me. And ultimately the reason for this test is to see that it seems a lot easier to connect with audience, if you will, through vertical format instead of horizontal format. I gather there's something to do with the way YouTube does things. So I'll just hang out here for a second and see if this worked. Looks like it probably didn't. So we'll chalk it up as a learning lesson. I really don't know. I mean, if anyone tunes in and wants to tell me how to do it, that'd be awesome. That's out there. That's available to us in the world, right? I'm kind of a stickler for using my camera because I own it, and why wouldn't I want to use a nice camera instead of a webcam or even my phone? I have a way better microphone set up. I get to add little text and information on there. It's just like a net gain. Feels a little bit more real than just talking into a phone. Although we'll probably have to go with that format here moving forward. I don't know. I'm using OBS, which is sort of new software for me, and tends to be that there's like some easy way to do that. I guess while I'm literally live on, I can change the scenes. Is that how this kind of works? If I was to change it around. It's kind of weird. Oh yeah, that works. Well, I think at some point here, I got this really old copy of An Actor Prepares. So I think it would be fun to connect with, I think we're all kind of some level an actor in this day and age. If you post on social media, you're sort of acting or creating commercials or what have you. So you should all know that, just know that you are acting. I'm acting right now, not very well necessarily, but an actor must prepare. So this is part of the preparation, is getting used to being on camera and talking and finding out feedback. So what is an actor prepares? Well, it's from this this handsome man here. It is I suppose Stanislavski. It definitely is. This book is was printed, looks like last time in 1967, so it's only about 60 years old. The sleeve has done a pretty good job actually maintaining the book in good order. So there's that. So what's in this book? Well, starts off with a note by the translator. The other thing I've kind of noticed here is that as I like to try to read, it's like I really need to kind of go with a teleprompter kind of format where like I'm kind of looking at you, but I'm looking at what I'm reading. Anyways, chapter 1, the first test. Is this? Does this qualify? Chapter 2, when acting is an art and not just lying. Oh, it doesn't say that in brackets. It should. Chapter 3, action. Chapter 4, imagination. Chapter 5, concentration of attention. Chapter 6, relaxation of the muscles. Find your zen. Chapter 7, units and objectives. Chapter 8, faith and a sense of truth. Make make your lies count. I mean, make the acting work really well. Chapter 9, emotion memory. Cry on command kind of thing, perhaps. Chapter 10, communion. You need fellow actors to work with. Could be that. And to feed off of. Chapter 11, adaptation. It's a pretty good film with Nicolas Cage. You guys should watch it. Chapter 12, inner motive forces. What is it that motivates you in the character? Can the character overcome your inner motive forces of seeking fame and fortune? I mean, delivering great art. Chapter 13, the unbroken line. Never give up. Say, keep talking until you've committed to the scene, perhaps. Chapter 14, the inner creative state. This is important for the artist, true. Chapter 15, the super objective. Fame and fortune, right? Fame and fortune, probably. Chapter 16, on the threshold of the subconscious. Fantastic. That to me sounds like method acting, if I had to guess. Marlon Brando, I believe, quite famous for it, though he has been gone for some time. So, pretty sure I'm right, and I'm just burning air here. Oh, I'm getting views, so maybe I am connecting with you guys. Ah, so does are you guys seeing this on vertical format? Oh, someone said hi. Hey, man. Hey, Game Boy. What's up? Are you watching this on mobile, on vertical? That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out with my resolution. What is your name? Well, what is your name, Red Point Road Committee? Are you a whole bunch of people or what? So, have you guys any interest in learning how to become an actor? You want to learn about how an actor prepares here? He prepares by having camera operators. Oh, and not kicking the tripod. I mean, I gotta say, I'd say it's pretty obvious what my name is. But what else? What are you guys doing? Let's chat. I came here to get to know YouTubers. What are you guys up to today? Is it Sunday where you guys are? Is it Monday? Could be Monday. Sunday where I am. There's a huge delay, so I guess it's kind of like I gotta wait. I'm expecting some result, but it's like a 15-second delay, I think, between the live feed and the output. You guys, what kind of video games you play? Do you play video games? What's up? What's cool these days? Fortnite? Minecraft? Something else? Well, I'll wait for you guys to continue to decide what it is you'd like to say. Let's find out about Chapter 1, the first test. Is the first test the biggest test? Oh, there we go. That's good framing. I picked this up once upon a time. I haven't read it for a bit. It's an old book, so I'm going to try to mitigate any unsuitable wording. We were excited as we waited for our first lesson with the director, Tortsov, today. But he came into our class only to make the unexpected announcement that in order to become better acquainted with us, he wished us to give a performance in which we should act bits from plays chosen by us. His purpose is to see us on the stage against the background of scenery, in makeup, in costume, behind footlights, with all the accessories. Only then, said he, will it be possible to judge our dramatic quality. What do you think dramatic quality is? Is it surprisingly interesting hair, your facial characteristics, your eyes, the way you're able to use your body language to emphasize your speech, your emotions? Dramatic quality. Do you guys have dramatic qualities? Do you think? Does it just mean being able to present emotion, or does it mean to draw emotion from your audience? Is acting really something that you're trying to attract, to find a chord that resonates within your audience members? Is that the trick, the real trick to a good actor? What do you guys like? What kind of films and television are you watching? Or YouTube channels? I'd say it's probably a combination of all of it. Moving on. At first, only a few favored the proposed test. Among these were a stocky fellow, Grishka Gorvorka, who had already played in some small theater. A tall, beautiful blonde called Sonya Veliaminova, and a lively, noisy chap named Vanya Vyunstov. The competition is fierce at the theater, probably some 100 and something years ago in Russia. Gradually, we all became accustomed to the idea of the coming tryout. The shining footlights grew more tempting, and the performance soon seemed interesting, useful, even necessary. In making our choices, I and two friends, Paul Shustov and Leo Pushchin, were at first modest. We thought of vaudeville or light comedy, but all around us we heard great names proposed: Gogol, Ostrovsky, Chekhov, and others. Imperceptibly, we found that we had stepped ahead in our ambitions and would play something romantic in costume, in verse. I was tempted by the figure of Mozart, Leo by that of Salieri, Paul thought of Don Carlos. Then we began to discuss Shakespeare, and my own choice fell on Othello. When Paul agreed to play Iago, everything was decided. As we were leaving the theater, we were told that the first rehearsal was fixed for the next day. Okay. We moved on to page 2 here. Let's continue. So, I guess I'll change. There's a break. It's not very long. Okay, so this is chapter 1, section 1, moving towards section 2. When I reached home late, I took down my copy of Othello, settled myself comfortably on the sofa, opened my book, and began to read. Hardly had I read 2 pages when I seized with a desire to act. In spite of myself, my hands, arms, legs, facial muscles. Oh no. I don't want to do the feedback loop again. And something inside me all began to move. I declaimed the text. Suddenly, I discovered a large ivory paper cutter. I stuck it into my belt like a dagger. My fuzzy bath navel towel. Don't know why I said navel. My fuzzy bath towel served as a white headcloth. Out of my sheets and blankets, I made a kind of shirt and gown. My umbrella was pressed into service as a scimitar. but I had no shield. Here it occurred to me that in the dining room which adjoined my room there was a big tray. With the shield in my hand, I felt myself to be a genuine warrior, yet my general aspect was modern and civilized, whereas Othello was African in origin and must have something suggestive of primitive life, perhaps a tiger in him. In order to recall, suggest, and fix the walk of an animal, I began a whole new set of exercises. And, wow. QWERTY, the subspace, would like to know. Clearly far too much information about me. You know what you can do. So, my umbrella pressed into service as a scimitar. I had no shield. So, we missed that. Many of these movements I felt to be in high degree successful. I had worked almost 5 hours without noticing the passage of time. To me, this seemed to show that my inspiration was real. End scene. Section 2 of Chapter 1. Yeah, we're over here. Yeah, this one. I awoke much later than usual, rushed into my clothes, and dashed to the theater as I went into the rehearsal room where they were waiting for me. I was so embarrassed that instead of apology, I made the careless remark. I seemed to be a little late. Rachmaninoff, the assistant director, looked at me a long time reproachfully and finally said, what do you think he said? Hey, QWERTY, subspace. It's kind of like trying to be a hacker name. You should get a better hacker name. We have been sitting here waiting, our nerves on edge, angry, and it seems I am a little late. We all came here full of enthusiasm for the work waiting to be done, and now, thanks to you, that mood has been destroyed. To arouse a desire to create is difficult. To kill that desire is extremely easy. Indeed. I talked about this yesterday. It's nothing like procrastinating on your main creative ambitions. It could take you on to entire other walk of life, procrastination. It's kind of amazing, putting off something and then finding out you live an entirely new life because of it. Think about it. You'll see it's true. To arouse a desire to create is difficult. To kill that desire is extremely easy. If I interfere with my own work, it is my own affair, but what right have I to hold up the work of a whole group? The actor, no less than the soldier, must be subject to iron discipline. For this first offense, Rachmaninoff said he would limit himself to a reprimand, and not enter it on the written record kept of students, but that I must apologize immediately to all and make it a rule in the future to appear at rehearsals a quarter of an hour before they begin. Even after my apology, Rachmaninoff was unwilling to go on, because he said the first rehearsal is an event in an artist's life, and he should retain the best possible impression of it. Today's rehearsal was spoiled by my carelessness. Let us hope that tomorrow's will be memorable. Chapter 1, the first test in An Actor Prepares. So what do you think so far? Well, hello, Prime Rev. Is Rev like revolution? The Prime Revolution. Or is it Reverent? The Prime Reverent? The Prime, some kind of new transformer, like Optimus Prime, the Prime Evil, maybe. Only time will tell. So where do we think this is going? So they're on stage in Russia. some theater. We can kind of guess that the narrator is Stanislavski. He's got this test. He's been practicing with a fake shield and a fake sword in the dining room. Shakespeare of some kind. Where is he going to go? Well, let's find out. This evening I intended to go to bed early because I was afraid to work on my role, but my eye fell on a cake of chocolate. I melted it with some butter and obtained a brown mess. It was easy to smear it on my face and make myself into a Moor. As I said, this is where I have to watch out for myself. I think that there's a little bit of a 60-year-old translator's edition of some of things that should be probably changed to modernize it. As I sat in front of my mirror, I admired at length the flash of my teeth. I learned how to show them off and how to turn my eyes until the white showed. In order to make the most of my makeup, I had to put on my costume, and once I was dressed, I wanted to act, but I didn't invent anything new. I merely repeated what I had done yesterday, and now it seemed to have lost its point. However, I did think I had gained something in my idea of how Othello ought to look. So we're, if you haven't read Othello, it's been a while. There's a movie called O from the 90s, I believe, as well. That's sort of a modern version of the Shakespeare play, sort of like the Leonardo DiCaprio one called Romeo and Juliet, which is quite good. I believe better than the Othello one, but I haven't given that Othello one another run in a while. But Othello is a man from Africa, of African descent, and therefore the actor is currently putting on blackface. So take that as you will. He's Russian, so I gather he is likely white. In fact, we're quite sure he is white, because he roughly looks like this. So now picture that. He is Othello, perhaps in his youth. Section 3. So, just because I have your captive attention, I have not read through this book, and I've owned it for so long, which is very ironic, because it's called An Actor Prepares. So clearly, I have not decided to prepare to be an actor until now, though. Here we are. And that's part of what this is all about. It's my own way of finding out about many different things, including how to prepare as an actor. And we'll do it together. Today was our first rehearsal. I arrived long ahead of time. The assistant director suggested that we plan our own scenes and arrange the properties. Fortunately, Paul agreed to everything I proposed, as only the inner aspects of Iago interest him. For me, the externals were of great importance. They must remind me of my own room. Without this setting, I could not get back my inspiration. Yet no matter how I struggled to make myself believe I was in my own room, all my efforts did not convince me. They merely interfered with my acting. Paul already knew the whole story, the whole of his role by heart, but I had to read my lines out of the book, or else to get by with approximations. To my astonishment, the words did not help me. In fact, they bothered me, so that I should have preferred to do without them entirely, or to cut the number in half. Not only the words, but also the thoughts of the poet were foreign to me. Even the actions as outlined tended to take away from me the freedom which I had felt in my own room. Worse than that, I didn't recognize my own voice. Besides, neither the setting nor the plan which I had fixed during my work at home would harmonize with the playing of Paul. For example, how could I introduce into a comparatively quiet scene between Othello and Iago those flashes with my teeth, rollings of my eyes, which were to get me into any part, and yet could not break away from my fixed ideas of how to act the nature I conceived as a savage, nor even from the setting I had prepared. Perhaps the reason was that I had nothing to put in its place. I had read the text of the role by myself. I had played the character by myself, by itself, without relating the one to the other. The words interfered with the acting, and the acting with the words. Well, what do we think there? What do we think? Stanislavski. This is, if you've ever paid close attention to actors talk, once in a while they'll bring this up and mention it. So, deep down inside, do you guys feel like you're faking it? Do you feel honest or deceitful? Do you feel like actors? Do you feel like you're pretending to be hackers or nerds or gamers or members of society? What is it that you feel like you're perhaps not being completely honest about? Because acting, in the end, although I think that the finer art of it, which is something that I'd like to learn, goes back to what I was talking about earlier, that it's about connecting with the audience. And if you can't connect with the audience, it doesn't matter what you really think about your performance, because your objective is to connect with them. Now, I've been watching an incredible amount of Survivor, completely captivated by the television show right now. And as soon as it's all presented, it's a television show. Thinking of, without that in mind, as soon as the other tribe members have any indication that you may be not being true, they kind of immediately turn on you as a tribe and try to boot you out. To me, that's kind of like acting. If you've ever watched a movie that's probably low rated on IMDb, you know that here, let me you know that you can kind of tell they're trying to act. And I think the biggest hurdle, now that's why I'm curious to see myself on camera, because you don't know. I don't know. At least this gives me an idea of what I look like and how I'm talking to you. And I have to develop that, of course, as acting. I would make sure that I'm not specifically looking at the camera. So there's two different forms. This format's sort of like the news format. You know, it's the news, the sports guys, they're always staring right into the camera. Maybe reality TV show. You got the aside. Suddenly you're kind of welcomed into the picture from, they call that breaching the wall, right? Breaching the third wall, fourth wall, something. Whatever it is, I forgot right now. Maybe you guys know. And we have to wonder, like, what I look at the Oscars now, and I'm very critical of these award ceremonies, and I wonder, particularly actors that you kind of just know very well, the leading roles, the leading actors, it's kind of tough for them to, in my opinion, deceive me as to who they are. And it tends to be the supporting cast that tends to be the really good actors, if you will, in the sense that of their roles that they're playing. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's true? How about Mr. Beast? Do you guys like Mr. Beast? So, we shall continue. I'll give you a little taste of the text again. We're going to move on to the next section. So this is still section 3, but it's just page 5. and it's after 3 fantastic little stars. So I don't know. We're kind of, this book is a bit of a, sure. Well, it depends. Is that legal where you're from? Because it's probably not considered a drug. But I'm Canadian, so I'll let you decide. So here we are continuing with Stanislavski's experience in a theater in Russia some time ago, like 150 years ago. I probably should have checked out the translator's note, but it is a long time ago. When I worked at home today, I still went over the old ground without finding anything new. Why do I keep on repeating the same scenes and methods? Why is my acting of yesterday so exactly like today's and tomorrow's? Has my imagination dried up, or have I no reserves of material? Why did my work in the beginning move along so swiftly and then stop at one point? As I was thinking things over, some people in the next room gathered for tea. In order not to attract attention to myself, I had to move my activities to a different part of the room and to speak my lines as softly as possible, so as not to be overheard. To my surprise, by these little changes, my mood was transformed. I had discovered a secret, not to remain too long at one point, forever repeating the too familiar. Art of War. Stay fluid. Stay dynamic. Don't let your opponents know too much about you. Who are the opponents? Could be Yabba Dabba Doo in drugs. I think he's doing drugs. That guy. Yabba Dabba Doing Drugs is watching. So welcome aboard to my live stream. Let us continue. Section 4, Chapter 1. An actor prepares. At today's rehearsal, from the very start, I began to improvise. Instead of walking about, I sat on a chair and played without gestures or movement, grimaces or rolling eyes. What happened? Immediately I became confused. I forgot the text and my usual intonations. I stopped. There was nothing for it but to go back to my old method of acting, and even to the old business. I did not control my methods, rather they controlled me. I think he's being a little dramatic there. Section 5. Today's rehearsal brought nothing new. However, I am becoming more accustomed to the place where we work, and to the play. At first, my method of portraying the Moor could not be harmonized with Iago of Paul at all. Today, it seemed as though I actually succeeded in fitting our scenes together. At any rate, I felt the discrepancies less sharply. So, he's getting better. Section 6. Today our rehearsal was on the big stage. I counted on the effect of its atmosphere and what happened, instead of the brilliancy of the footlights and the bustle of the wings filled with all sorts of scenery. I found myself in a place dimly lighted and deserted. The whole of the great stage lay open and bare. Only near the footlights there were a number of plain cane chairs, which were to outline our set. To the right there was a rack of lights. I had hardly stepped on the stage when there loomed up in front of me the immense whole of the proscenium and arch, and beyond it an endless expanse of dark mist. This was my first impression of the stage from behind. "Begin," someone called. I was supposed to go into Othello's room, outlined by the cane chairs, and to take my place. I sat down in one of them, but it turned out to be the wrong chair. I could not even recognize the plan of our set. For a long time, I could not fit myself into my surroundings, nor could I concentrate my attention on what was going on around me. I found it difficult even to look at Paul, who was standing right beside me. My glance passed by him and traveled out into the auditorium, or else backstage to the workrooms where people were walking around carrying things, hammering, arguing. The astonishing thing was that I continued mechanically to speak and act. If it had if it had not been for my long exercises at home that had beaten into me certain methods I must have stopped at the very first lines. Stage fright. But they're just rehearsing. They're sitting around practicing. They're just getting to this. They're just there. He's in some kind of acting school of some kind, essentially. In Russia, 500 years ago, they're on the stage. The footlights are just some lights at the bottom of the stage pointing towards the actors on stage. So, okay, so we continue. So we're going to go on to the 7th section here now. It's starting to get long here. Let's see, how long is the first test? The first test is almost over. So we're going to continue. So, today we had a second rehearsal on the stage. I arrived early and decided to prepare myself right on the stage, which today was quite different from yesterday. Work was humming as properties and scenery were being placed. It would have been useless amid all this chaos to try to find the quiet in which I was accustomed to get into my role at home. First of all, it was necessary to adjust myself to my new surroundings. I went out to the front of the stage and stared into the awful hole beyond the footlights, trying to become accustomed to it and to free myself from its pull. But the more I tried not to notice the place, the more I thought about it. Just then, a workman who was going by me dropped a package of nails. I started to help pick them up, and as I did this, I had the very pleasant sensation of feeling quite at home on the big stage. But the nails were soon picked up, and again I became obsessed by the size of the place. I hurried down into the orchestra. Rehearsals of other scenes began, but I saw nothing. I was too full of excitement, waiting for my turn. There is a good side to this period of waiting. It drives you into such a state that all you can do is to long for your turn to get through with the thing that you are afraid of. When our turn did come, I went up on the stage, where a sketchy set had been arranged out of bits taken from various productions. Some parts were wrong side up, and all the furniture was ill assorted. Nevertheless, the general absence of the stage, now that it was lighted, was pleasant, and I felt at home. Oh, I just lost my spot looking at the camera, and that's too bad. I felt at home somewhere on this stage. Where was I? I felt at home in this room and had been prepared for Othello. By a great sketch of imagination, I could recognize a certain similarity to my own room. But the minute the curtain rose and the auditorium appeared before me, I again felt myself possessed by its power. At the same time, some new unexpected sensations surged inside of me. The set hems in the actor. It shuts off the backstage area. Above him are large dark spaces. At the sides are the wings that outline the room. The semi-isolation is pleasant, but a bad aspect is that it projects the attention out into the public. Another new point was that my fears led me to feel an obligation to interest the audience. Am I afraid right now? This feeling of obligation interfered with my throwing myself into what I was doing. I began to feel hurried, both in speech and in action. My favorite places flashed by like telegraph poles seen from a train. The slightest hesitation and a catastrophe would have been inevitable. So let's talk about that. So here I am on camera. You're the audience. You can leave your comments about whatever you want. But you have this like comfortable existence. You're kind of hiding and lurking in the shadows. And here I am putting myself out there. And it's a totally different experience. I'll be honest. It feels significantly more powerful than the alternative. And that's quite a nice feeling. So this sort of exhilaration, this fear that he's feeling, he's probably not used to being in the spotlight, perhaps putting himself out there. So Mr. Stanislavski here is seemingly learning that he can perform under pressure. So again, just for fun here. Okay, here we are. We're going on to Section 8, Chapter 1, the first test of an actor prepares. Material that most aspiring actors will probably be engaged with. And I present it to you because I present it to myself at the same time. I have not read this, so we're going to find out together. How does an actor prepare? As I had to arrange for my makeup and costume for the dress rehearsal, I reached the theater today even earlier than usual. A good dressing room was given to me, as well as a gorgeous gown, which is really a museum piece and is used by the Prince of Morocco in The Merchant of Venice. I sat down at the dressing table, on which were laid out various wigs, bits of hair, lacquer pots, grease paints, powder, brushes. I started to put on some dark brown color with a brush, but it hardened so quickly that it left almost no trace. Then I tried a wash with the same result. I put the color on my finger and thence onto my face, but had no luck except with the light blue, the very color, it seemed to me, that was of no possible use in the makeup of Othello. I put some lacquer on my face and tried to attach some hair. The lacquer pricked my skin and the hair stuck straight up from my face. I tried one wig after another. All put on a face without makeup. All put on a face without makeup were too obvious. Ugh, terrible sentence. Next, I tried to wash off what little makeup I had on my face, but I had no idea how to do it. About this time there came into my room a tall, very thin man with glasses, dressed in a long white schmuck. He leaned over and began to work on my face. First he cleaned off with Vaseline all that I had put on, and then began again with fresh colors. When he saw the colors were hard, he dipped a brush into some oil. He also put oil on my face. On that surface the brush could lay the colors smoothly. Then he covered my whole face with a sooty shade, proper to the complexion of a Moor. I rather missed the darker shade which the chocolate had contributed, because that had caused my eyes and teeth to shine. I would guess there was lead in that paint that he was putting on his face. I wonder if he had the Mad Hatter's disease after it was all said and done. That's caused from mercury, I think. But anyways, maybe Yabba Dabba Doo can spike in and talk a bit more about the Mad Hatter's disease. When my makeup was finished and my costume put on, I looked into the mirror and was delighted with the art of my makeup man, as well as with the whole impression. Do you think, how many of you guys do you have who's tuned in? Are you guys, do you not shave this part? Some of you? I bet the two commenters there. Not the hellos. I appreciate the hellos. But the other two. Probably got a little extra under here, just out of guess. That kind of all the time. Go outside and have a walk. Get off YouTube. Go smoke your joint. Whatever you want to do. When my makeup was finished and my costume put on, I looked into the mirror and was delighted with the art of my makeup man, as well as with the whole impression. The angles of my arms and body disappeared, and the flowing robes and the gestures I had worked up went well with the costume. Paul and some others came into my dressing room, and they congratulated me on my appearance. Their generous praise brought back my old confidence. But when I went out on the stage, I was disturbed by the changes in the position of the furniture. In one place, an armchair was unnaturally moved forward from the wall almost into the middle of the scene, and the table was too near the front. I seemed to be put on exhibition right in the most conspicuous place. Out of excitement, I walked up and down and kept catching my dagger in the folds of my costume, and my knives on the corner of the furniture or scenery. But this did not keep me from an automatic delivery of my lines and an incessant activity on the stage. In spite of everything, it seemed as though I should get through to the end of the scene. Yet, when I came to the culminating moment in my role, the thought flashed into my mind. Now I'll be stuck, whereupon I was seized with a panic and stopped speaking. I do not know what guided me back to an automatic rendering of my part, but once more it saved me. I had only one thought in my mind: to finish as quickly as possible, to take off my makeup and to get out of the theater. Ultimately, the show must go on, I guess is what you could say there about that statement. And here I am at home alone, where I am most unhappy. Fortunately, Leo came around to see me. He had seen me out in the audience and wanted to know what I had thought of his performance. But I could not tell him because, although I had watched this bit, I did not notice anything because of my own excitement in waiting for my turn. Sort of like those the sports guys, they just sit there waiting to talk, watch. It's like they're struggling. Like you can just see how excited they are to just say whatever they got to say. They don't listen to the other guys. He spoke familiarly about the play and the role of Othello. He was especially interesting in his explanation of the sorrow, the shock, the amazement of the Moor, that such vice could exist in a lovely form of Desdemona. After he left, I tried to go over some parts of the role. With his interpretation, I almost wept. I was so sorry for the Moor. Section 9. An actor prepares. We're almost there. I wrap, this is really the end here. I'll wrap after this, and I'll give you a tidbit. This is the day of the exhibition performance. I thought I could see ahead exactly what was going to happen. I was filled with a complete indifference until I reached my dressing room, but once inside, my heart began to pound and I felt almost nauseated. On the stage, what first disturbed me was the extraordinary solemnity, the quiet, and the order that reigned there. When I stepped away from the darkness of the wings to the full illumination of the footlights, headlights, and spotlights, I felt blinded. Blinded by the light. The brightness was so intense that it seemed to form a curtain of light between me and the auditorium. I felt protected from the public, and for a moment I breathed freely, but soon my eyes became accustomed to the light. I could see into the darkness, and the fear and attraction of the public seemed stronger than ever. I was ready to turn myself inside out, to give them everything I had, yet inside of me I had felt so empty, never felt so empty. The effort to squeeze out more emotion than I had, the powerlessness to do the impossible, filled me with a fear that turned my face and my hands to stone. As my forces were spent on unnatural, fruitless efforts, my throat became constricted. My sounds all seemed to go to a high note. My hands, feet, gestures, and speech all became violent. I was ashamed of every word, of every gesture. I blushed, clenched my hands, and pressed myself against the back of the armchair. I was making a failure, and in my helplessness I was suddenly seized with rage. For several minutes I cut loose from everything about me. I flung out the famous line, "Blood, Iago, blood." I felt in these words all the injury to the soul of a trusting man. Leo's interpretation of Othello suddenly rose in my memory and aroused my emotions. Besides, it almost seemed as though for a moment the listeners strained forward and that through the audience there ran a murmur. The moment I felt this approval, a sort of energy boiled up in me. I cannot remember how I finished the scene because the footlights in the black hole disappeared from any consciousness and I was free of all fear. I remember that Paul was at first astonished by the change in me. Then he became infected by it and acted with abandon. The curtain was rung down. Out in the hall there was an applause, and I was full of faith in myself. With the airs of a visiting star with assumed indifference, I went out into the audience during the intermission. I chose a place in the orchestra from which I could easily be seen by the director and his assistant and sat down, in the hope that they would call me over and make some pleasant comment. The footlights went up. The curtain was drawn, and instantly one of the students, Maria Maloletkova, flew down a flight of stairs. She fell to the floor, writhing, and cried, "Oh, help me, I'm in," a way that chilled me to the heart. After that, she rose and spoke some lines, but so rapidly that it was impossible to understand them. Then in the middle of a word, as though she had forgotten her part, she stopped, covered her face with her hand, and dashed off into the wings. After a little, the curtain came down, but in my ears I still heard that cry. An entrance, one word, and the feeling goes across. The director, it seemed to me, was electrified, but I had not done the same thing with that one phrase. Blood, Iago, blood, when the whole audience was in my power. And that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is when acting is an art. So when you go from one side to the other. Looks like I've lost your attention anyways. Though I appreciate the little bit that you gave me. Whether to hurl ridiculous comments or not, I had very low expectations of an anonymous YouTube audience. Let's talk about that a little bit. I think we've really learned at this point in time, and if you really haven't learned this yet, whether you're young or old, the cruelty that you express in your anonymity is incredibly cowardly, right? You're just a coward. So hate if you want to hate, but just know I'm laughing at you. And to the rest of you guys, thanks for being awesome out there. We'll do this again. I'll read chapter 2 later. I'm going to wrap and take a break for now.